Hello, 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 everybody. Pop culture curator here, back with another episode of Rumblings from the Lab. I know it's been a while, and I feel bad for all you out there. If you enjoy these live streams, I know there's been a delay for a few weeks, but we're back in full force, hopefully to entertain. This is an open mic, open topic tonight. Well, there is actually the theme that I originally decided to schedule this on that I'm going to pay tribute to is somebody, a famous composer. Not a big name like a lot of us recognize, like John Williams or Jerry Goldsmith or James Horner or people like that. But his body of work is well recognized, even though he may not have gotten the credit he deserved. At least he was paid for his work. And I think a lot of us, if once you hear the man, his work, if you see his name or his face, you may not recognize it. Some of us may, but if you hear his work, some of it or samples of it, I'm sure you will definitely recognize it. Hail, Chris. So good to see you. I'm glad you could join us. Um, I hope we have more people coming along because I would like to share what I'm about to share with as many people as possible because I haven't really heard much on the internet. I know within our group, our circle of friends, all of us sci-fi nerds who love Star Trek and other things related, I haven't really seen much mention of it, so I thought I needed to because in my personal opinion, I think the person deserves a shout out. He passed away this week after many decades of giving us some of our most memorable music growing up. And I'm going to pull up an article here so I can kind of give you some background. Wait a bit, they will come soon. You are right, Chris. I'm sure they will. It always they start coming in. It's just that my problem is I don't know what to talk about by myself, and I don't want to how they call it, bury the topic. Um, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up. I can at least pull up the article here as people come in because I do like to share that, and I can start reading it. But I don't want for those that come in later, I don't want them to miss too much. Hello, at your time. So good to see you. I can do that for now. I can show your chats. Let me do that. By the way, I will try to cover everyone's chats. I usually try to. If I miss yours, please let me know and shout at me, and I'll make sure to cover it. Because if I miss it, it's not intentional. I try to cover everybody because the chat's the reason why I'm here. Without you, I would have nothing. And here's Chris says, "Hey there." Oh, thank you, Chris. Chris says, "Wait a bit, they will come soon." Yes, yes. Edge of Time says, "Ahoy." And Chris Longfellow says, "Edge, hello." I don't, I don't know if I should feel strange calling you Chris because I know we're on Captain's channel. They call you Meringue, but whatever you prefer, I want you to feel comfortable. I may not call you by your specific gender, but I will definitely try to call you by whatever name you'd like to be recognized by. So I'm going to be pulling up this topic here. Admiral T, welcome. So good to see you, sir. Glad you could join us. Here we go. Let me get this caught up here and give him a little bit of a bigger screen. If I don't know if you're on a smaller device for you listening, if you're on a smaller device or on a computer, but you might want to be able to. I'm going to read this article and hopefully you can follow along with us. Admiral Teague says, "Hail, Chris Longfellow." And Chris says, "My real name is Nikki. Nobody else knows this." Well, they do now, Nikki. And by the way, Nikki, it's a pleasure. Admiral Teague says, "Always glad to hear from you, Pop." Likewise, Admiral Teague. I hope this is an interesting topic for everyone tonight. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I'm going to cover this because I really, really enjoy this guy. And for what he's done, I'm going to cover a little bit of it. I'll try to play without his some of the work he's done is so iconic. I'm not going to play obviously because he's done so much. I can't play it all or samples from it all. But I know from our circle of friends and group of people that are on here, a lot of us are, or at least some of us, are somewhat Star Trek fans. And anybody who knows me knows that my heart is set with TOS. TNG was okay and some of the later stuff, but like everyone else, I'm not really happy with the current Trek. But the reason why I'm covering this is because Gerald Fried passed away this week. And as you can see here, it says R.I.P. Gerald Fried, Emmy winning composer of Star Trek's famous fight music. Now, all you have to do is hear fight music, and I'm sure you guys know what we're talking about. Freed won, sorry, I believe it's called, pronounced Freed. Freed won an Emmy for Roots, which was his biggest accomplishment, while his music from Star Trek's Amok Time remains one of the most iconic sci-fi fight themes of all time, and I'm sure we can all agree with that. And Captain Kennedy, welcome. Glad you can make it, sir. I adore Prince. Well, I'm sorry, but I won't be covering Prince here tonight. Captain Kennedy says in the lobby with the magazine. Oh, nice, Captain. Hopefully, you're not in the lobby of a doctor's office. And Chris says, Captain Kennedy, I believe is laughing. Chris Longfellow says, what type of magazine? Captain Kennedy says, oh, okay. So here we are. Gerald Fried has died, a veteran music and longtime Hollywood composer. Fried contributed work to dozens of films, as well as some of the defining TV shows of the 1960s and 70s and beyond, including scores for Roots, Star Trek, and Gilligan's Island, another one of my favorites. Of course, anybody who knows me knows I have a Wednesday stream where I cover Gilligan's Island. Although his work was sometimes overshadowed by the frequently flashier theme songs for the projects he worked on, many of his songs would eventually reach legendary status, most notably his horn-heavy, trilling score from the Star Trek episode Amok Time, essentially the iconic theme music for a good old-fashioned sci-fi fight scene. Per Variety, Freed died this week of pneumonia. He was 93, sad to say. I'm going to see if I can cover this really quick without getting in trouble with YouTube. All right, here we go. I'm going to play a little bit of snippet. I'm sure you guys know what we're talking about, but I can't resist. So I'm going to try to play it a little bit without getting in trouble. And if you cannot hear this, please let me know in the chat. I hope I have the sound settings correct. In fact, let me try this again. I want to make sure that I have selected to share music. I'm a little rusty on this, so bear with me. There we go. Share system audio. And here we go. And this is the music I'm sure we've all heard before. And if I go a little forward here, I hope by skipping her I don't get in too much trouble from YouTube, but I know how they are. I will anyway, probably. Oh, it's sad. I can't believe he passed away. There we go. Anyway, that's a sample of his work. I'm sure most of you out there, if you're within listening range, probably recognize that. It says, born in New York in the 1920s, Freed graduated from Juilliard in the 1950s and quickly fell in with Stanley Kubrick, serving as a composer on many of the director's early films, including their final collaboration, Kubrick's 1957 military drama, Paths of Glory, which is an outstanding movie. Working frequently in genre film and TV, Freed contributed scores to westerns, crime thrillers, horror flicks, and more over the next several years, while also making significant and eventually significantly lucrative inroads into the world of TV. Freed's TV career started again in westerns, including the inevitable detour through Gunsmoke that pops up on the resume of essentially every single person working in Hollywood in the 1960s, before landing meteor gigs with shows like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Gilligan's Island. Now listen to this. Freed composed music for 51 episodes of basically Gilligan's Island. Freed composed music for 51 episodes of the endlessly syndicated series. He later noted that thanks to royalties, the series was the most profitable thing he ever did. So you read that, you saw that. Gilligan's Island was the most profitable thing that he ever did. His music appeared in 5 episodes of Star Trek TOS, Shore Leave, Amok Time, Cat's Paw, Friday's Child, and The Paradise Syndrome. Freed attained his most prestigious TV credit in 1977 when the producers of Roots, apparently worried that original pick Quincy Jones was missing deadlines, brought him on to write a large portion of the music for the later episodes of groundbreaking miniseries Roots. Jones and Freed would share the Emmy win for the series score, and Freed would return to the franchise for follow-ups, The Next Generations, and The Gift. So let me go back to here. I don't know if you guys even saw that. I apologize. Let me get back to my chat here. I'm kind of getting behind on that. Ola Greg, welcome, Ola Greg. So good to see you. On guard, Gorn, rising music. And Chris says, Teague, I enjoyed your show today. Thanks for your righteous anger. And Skogly, if you're there, I don't know if Skogly came on yet, but fantastic stream today. Admiral Teague says, I sample all the time. Up to 4 seconds should be safe. I know, I think I just may have gone over 4 seconds. I get so excited when I listen to that wonderful music. Chris says, all these cool old guys are leaving us so sad. You're right. They just, I don't, this is once again my personal opinion, but I think the music for Star Trek TOS stands out as the best Star Trek music out of all the series. It just seemed like, I don't know, after TNG and then Voyager and then Enterprise, it just turned more melodramatic and like a soap opera and more like background music. It just didn't have the oomph and the impact that TOS music had. I can't remember any series of Star Trek that had music like this fight scene, for example. And Captain Infinity, thanks for your shows, says Chris. Captain Infinity is a real pleasure meringue. And Admiral Teague says up to 6 won't get you in trouble. Is it 6? I hear so many different things, it's hard to tell, but I have a feeling that music is so iconic and so famous, I'm sure it's probably going to be half a second gets me in trouble. And Admiral Teague says 6 seconds. I guess I'll find out. I'll know pretty quick if they shut down this stream, right, guys? By the way, if anybody wants to come on and join me on this on the panel, you're welcome to. I don't have a lot to share tonight. I didn't have a lot planned. I figured I would talk to. Like I mentioned in the beginning here. I haven't done a stream in probably almost a month, and I feel really bad. I know most people right now are talking about Picard and Ant-Man. I have not seen Picard, but from the reviews that I've heard, I probably do not plan on seeing it. Admiral Teague says 5 seconds is the danger point. I think when know by now. I think we know by now. Yeah, because you're right. Because I've had some people where they've had their streams just shut down immediately. But even if it doesn't, what'll happen is I'll go back and check tomorrow, and it'll show me if I have a content warning, and I'll probably have to cut those out, which is sad to say. But it's too bad because obviously, as you guys know, I'm not trying to make money off of uh, his work or that piece of music. I'm just trying to share it so that we can all basically share our nostalgia for it and our love for it. Because who doesn't recognize that when you hear those? In fact, I'd say, I mean, that's probably the best fight music of any Star Trek. Even within TOS, that's the best fight music they have. And every time you see it, every time you see any fight in Star Trek, that's the music that pretty much goes through your mind. I know they have other ones, but that seems to be the top one of the most popular, at least in my opinion, that is. I know this is not going to be a very long stream. I know most people are probably on some of the bigger guys' streams. There's some big ones out there. There's Saturday is a difficult night, and plus a lot of people are busy, or if they're smarter than me, they're out partying or having fun, enjoying themselves. Admiral T says, Chris, I really took it people using R&B to make excuse for the real problems with that so-called good Star Trek. I think what happens, the worst part about the new Trek is it's divided people. And now what's sad is it seems like, at least from what I've observed, in my opinion, it seemed like the people who do enjoy this new third season of Picard are really dumping on people that don't, which is sad because I don't know why. Who cares what I think? Who cares if I like it or if I don't like it? If you like it, that's fine. That doesn't mean I have to like it, and that doesn't mean if I don't like it, you can attack me or judge me or criticize me in any way. We all have a right to, our taste in, well, crap. I'll put it that way, right? But now, when I say crap, I mean the show. I don't mean anybody who watches it. But I respect people who watch it. It's just that I feel sad because that's exactly what Paramount wants. I think people they're so desperate for not having real Trek. It's getting to the point where they'll watch anything, and I think they're letting the guard down. especially when it comes to Strange New Worlds. From what I've seen on that lately, on the previews and the trailers, it just doesn't. It's just, in my opinion, it's just not Trek, and it's really sad what they've done. The dystopian look and the you know the anti-man. They really really hate men now, and it's just I don't know. It's just not my cup of tea. Admiral Teague says they still cut men a few times. I don't want. I don't know what Critical Drinker saw. Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it either. I'm not. What I mean when I say that, I mean Critical Drinker's review. Yes, I heard that he has a review up with Robert Meyer Burnett. And with Critical Drinker, I like him. I like his channel. I don't agree with all his reviews. I agree with a lot of them. But in this case, I disagree with Star Trek. And I think there was also, I heard Gary from Nerdrotic was on there, and which means that they've got him, I don't want to say suckered, but I'll say that, well, he seems to like it. So, good for him, right? Good for him. Good for Burnett. Good for the Critical Drinker. Anybody likes it, if you enjoy it, that's fine. But so far, the reviews I've heard, by the way, I have heard good and bad. I've listened to a few reviews of people that are just all over themselves fawning for it. Then I've heard reviews of people who absolutely hate it, who despise it and say that, regardless of what they've done to Star Trek, this is still not my Star Trek. They've ruined it. It's too late. But out of everything, I prefer something a little right in the middle, which is more believable. So the best review that I've heard, and I like to shout out, is BertoPray5.com. The man knows Star Trek. He's a big Star Trek fan. I mean, listen to his name, Berta Prey. And his reviews that I saw of Picard season 3, episode 1, seems to be the most accurate and honest. And because he points out things that are good, some things that are nostalgic towards original shows. He points out the member berries. But what I like is the fact that he sticks to logic and points out the holes in the logic and in the plot and the scripts and in the continuity and the canon. And that seems to be missing from those people that are saying, "Oh, it's wonderful! It's the best thing ever! It's Return to Trek." But when you hear that, it's like that's highly suspicious. Are you telling me the show is absolutely so perfect that there's no flaws, that it's perfectly fits perfectly with canon and continuity? It's like I find that hard to believe. So, in my opinion, if you check out Berto Pray 5's channel, he has the best reviews. I've always trusted his reviews. I watched his reviews of Discovery and of the other Star Trek, the newer Trek, and he seems to be spot on. I was not to say anything derogatory toward other people who give reviews. That's fine. They have their opinions. If you get really excited about the show, that's good for you. But I want to listen to something that's a little, like I said, middle of the road, that says, "Hey, yeah, I respect and recognize the homage it's paying to the old shows. Yet at the same time, we need to point out these faults with the plot, the consistency, the characters, things that are anti Star Trek." Out of all the reviews I heard, Bird is the only one that seems to mention the reality of how the guns, the way they're designed and portrayed in the new show, is terrible. Obviously, whoever wrote that knows nothing about guns, has no comprehension of how guns work, and they're obviously for gun control. You can always tell by people who are for banning guns how they write guns within movies, because you can tell it's like handing a gun to someone who doesn't know how to even handle it. They don't know how to handle a gun. They don't know how to film a gun or how to film a gun being used in the proper way. But once again, that's my opinion. Let me see. Let me get caught up on the chat really quick. Chris Longfellow says, "Remember when we were allowed to disagree and still be friends? What's happened?" Exactly. That's exactly it, Chris. You're totally right. I had it happen recently. I disagreed with somebody, and now everybody's mad at me. And it's like, okay. I mean, not just that person who disagreed with me, but people tend to they talk to other people, and the next thing you know, I've got everybody mad at me, and I'm like, okay, what can I do? Right? It's a losing battle. Sometimes I guess they don't respect me to be able to speak up. Jedi Bill, hello, Jedi Bill. So good to see you. I'm glad you're here. By the way, Jedi Bill has. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill. I just realized you have karaoke. I think tonight, or I don't know if it was earlier or later. I hope I'm not streaming over you, Bill. Jedi Bill says hello, pop culture curator. Yeah, really good to see you, Bill. If you're listening, please say hello to Nina for me. And Chris says Jedi Bill, hi. Admiral Teague says his Picard 3 review was not his best work. Admiral Teague, if you're welcome to come on the panel if you'd like and tell me about. When you say his Picard 3 review was not his best work, do you mean Robert Meyer Burnett? Do you mean The Critical Drinker? Or do you mean Bird of Prey 5? Or you can put the answer in the chat if you'd like. Chris Longfellow says Gary loved it. Ooh, okay, well that's all right. It's interesting. No, okay, well everybody loves certain things. Captain Divinity says welcome to review a review of a review, right? And if somebody says, well, what's your opinion of the show? I'm not going to give you an opinion of the show because I don't watch it. But I'll give you my opinion of the review that I watched. Whether I enjoyed myself listening to the review, I have the right to form an opinion on that, right? Admiral Teague says no one tried to say it had good dialogue. Oh, really? So they all say that it's a fantastic show, but it has horrible dialogue. That sounds kind of strange. Admiral Teague says all weapons look awful. Worst phasers ever. Yeah, I saw some clips during the review. Yeah, and you could. It's obvious. It reminds me of some of the later TNG movies that it doesn't mix well with the TNG cast. It's not Star Wars. It's not an action flick. It's so far removed from actual Trek that I just don't consider it Trek. But it just boggles my mind how some of these supposedly tried and true fans just seem to be falling all over it. I don't know if they've forgotten of what Trek was based on, and I don't know. But like I said, I don't want to. The last thing I'm going to do is criticize other people, especially people I don't even know. So I'll criticize maybe their opinion, whether I like their opinion or not, but I'm not going to criticize the person. Chris Longfellow says, if you don't hit me over the head and drag me away with the first episode of a new show, I'm not giving you 3 seasons of my life. Well, you're right, Chris, and if that's the case, and it should have been the first season that did that, right? Why wait till the third season before? Uh, that's what I heard about DS9. That's why I never really got into it. I keep hearing, well, second or third season is worth watching. I'm like, oh no. And then I think it's the same with Enterprise. Third or fourth season's worth watching, and it's like, no, pass. I don't know if it's that I don't have the patience, but I think they need to hit the ground running on their very first season, their very first few episodes, like Star Trek TOS did. Anything else, in my opinion, there's no excuse for it. It's lazy and it's hack writing. But that's just an opinion. I don't want to upset anybody. I know there's a lot of fan of those shows. Chris says, if you don't hit me, oops, already got that. Gap After Dark. Hey, it's so good to see you, Gap. And Gap says, hey, all. Admiral Teague says, Chris, Gary sniffed cleaning fluid off as knotted up rag a bunch of times and admits it. When he watched Picard, that caught up with him. I know the man used to do drugs, and I know he was homeless at one point. I used to listen to Gary Nerdrotic faithfully ever since he originally started. When him and Doomcock, when they first began, I remember I was working in San Francisco, and I used to listen to Gary all the time. And I remember when he moved, and I think he eventually moved to Texas. But then after, he did a few questionable things on his channel. I don't really tune in anymore. And Chris says, I still like the usual suspects, even though it's a mess. Respect, Captain. And Admiral Teague says, Drinker. Oh, so Admiral Teague's talking about Drinker's review. And Captain Infinity says, the usual filming of a lie. Chris says, Gary is too preachy for me. I'm not fond of being lectured at by a junkie. Admiral Teague, Chris says, I agree, and he's too overtly political for long periods. I don't know. With Garrett Neurotic, it kind of reminds me similar to as Heels versus Babyface. I used to watch some of his reviews because I thought they were funny, the way he would attack and make fun of the show Batgirl and some of the other things. And then I realized that all their clicks was based on hate and negative things. And I kind of stopped watching them. So no offense to those guys personally, but that's just not my thing. I'd like to focus on more things that are more positive. That's why you won't see me doing videos of like Velma and other bad stuff on TV just to get clicks. That's just not for me. I think hate clicks are a cheap way to. I don't know. It's like dirty money. I don't know why it's like dirty money. Even though I know people aren't really making a lot of it, or at least most people are not. But it's like I don't know. For me personally, it would be like the lowest common denominator. So that's why if I don't have something positive to cover, like Gerald Fried's passing tonight, I'm not going to sit here and go on and on and on about Velma or Picard or something like that just so I can get more clicks or super chats. I, but that's fine for those people that do it. If that works for them, more power to it. So I definitely don't want to. I don't blame them if like I said, a lot of them are very successful. So hey, maybe they're doing something right. Admiral Teague says of all those shows, maybe Enterprise has the most charm. And Admiral Teague says Gary loves living in Texas, except every little thing about it. He says, well, you got to remember, everybody from California moved to Texas so that they can make Texas California too. The first thing they did when they got there was open the border. The crime has skyrocketed now. Drug use has skyrocketed. Now you've got homeless. The homeless population is explosion. They're doing exploding. They're doing everything there that they did here. They're voting Democratic and they're changing everything. And take my word for it. And you guys will remember when I told you this. But the day's going to come, not far away, where they're going to see to it that they ban guns in Texas, of all places. I mean, there's a reason they all moved to Texas. I mean, a lot of them. You didn't see them going to the other Democratic states. I don't want to talk about politics, but they targeted the conservative states. I'll put it that way. Admiral Teague says, "Az is nowhere as political as Gary, who's naming names and giving endorsements." Well, that's true. Right. As like I said, he's funny. The way he makes fun of stuff, he makes funny faces, funny noises. It's just that it got old, and the stuff that he talks about that he covers, like Batgirl. I don't care about Batgirl. I'm not gonna watch the show. It was funny to laugh at first, but it reminds me of kind of kitty potty humor, juvenile, I guess, humor. And but I know that works for some people, so good for them. Like I said. And Chris says they have lost any charm they once had. Pop, we enjoy you because you're not a sellout. Well, thank you, Chris. I promise you, I never would sell out. I know they've said that. You've heard that before, and by people who have eventually sold out. But no, not for me. I'm old enough and wise enough to know that my time. But the things that I like, the things that you guys see me talk about and cover on my channel, is classics. And I know they're never going to make good stuff like this again within my lifetime. I hope I'm wrong. Believe me, I hope I'm wrong. And I hope that at some point the younger generations will wake up and they start making good things again. Things that are based on your talent and your achievements, not on who you are, who you sleep with, or the color of your skin. But I don't see that happening anytime soon. Sorry about the politics there. Chris says, "Who the hell moves to Texas on purpose?" I would. I was. You know what's funny is I was planning on. This was like 5 years ago. Actually, up to about 5 years ago. I like Texas. I visited there, and they have Whataburger. In my opinion, the best burgers. They put In and Out to shame. Everybody's always talking about In and Out Burger. Oh, forget that. You want Whataburger. So for the longest time, I wanted to retire in Texas, but now that all those California people are moving there, it's like no way. So the only bastion of sanity that I think I think the last, it's like an island of insanity, and or it's like a sea of insanity, and there's a little island way over on the other side, which I think will be the last place taken over, and I think that's Florida. And so I'm gonna try to go there if I can, but it's so far away, difficult, expensive. I have my three dogs, my three little babies. You guys can see here in my picture. That's what makes it so expensive. Otherwise, I could pack up tonight right now, just get in my car and drive away. But I've got my babies, and I don't think they'd be happy if I did that. Admiral T says Gary has all that plus third world internet. Yeah, I'm not surprised. He's got a lot of resources now. He's got a lot of subs, and he's making a lot of money. I'm pretty sure with him and Doomcock and the others, that's probably their full time job now. Gap After Dark says, "Pop, you keep it real." Well, thank you, Gap. I try to. Admiral Teague says there's lots of people from New York who moved to North Carolina, but has escaped New York, and they are looking to be Southerners. That's right, well, because New York is another Democratic state. They're moving out of New York, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, California. So it's all the Democratic, the hives. It's like the hive mind. You guys heard of hives? You heard of the Borg? Well, that's where they're at and why they're moving out to the, like I said, the conservative states. Chris Longfellow says we screen all people moving to Florida. There's a lot of safe sale if anyone looks at it. I'm sure I know that it's probably your autocorrect is probably screwing it up, Chris. But I'll do the best to try to decipher it. We screen all people moving to Florida. There's a lot for sale if anyone looks at it. I blast music and target practice off the porch. Nobody's bought it. Chris says Florida, baby. Yeah, I've got a friend that lives somewhere near. Well, I used to tell people I've got a friend that lives near Disney World, but I won't say that now because if I do, they're going to think he's a weirdo. So I'll just say I've got a friend who lives in Florida. Admiral T says you need a couple of $100 a month for drinkable water, depending on where in Texas you move, though. So drink the water first. Well, that's possible, but being living here in California, I don't know if it's much different because we're also next to. If you mean because it's close to the border, except of course it's much more expensive here. Chris says you're welcome here, Pop. I mean it. Buy a camper. I'll buy a little camper and move with my pooches. Believe me, that is very tempting. If I could pull it with my Prius, so I'd have to figure out a way of driving a camper and attach my Prius to the back. But the thing with campers, I don't know. I don't usually talk about cars and trucks, but campers that have a built-in engine where you drive it like a Winnebago, they're built like garbage. They have a horrible, horrible record rating and history. The best thing to do is to buy a good, strong third wheel or fifth wheel truck and to pull a camper, and because they're not built very well. I'll put it that way. Each camper is built by several companies, and they all throw one camper together. And then when one thing fails, they all blame on each other. So even getting anything repaired, even when it's under warranty, is next to impossible. Admiral Tink says Florida is too rough for me. It's really hot, really humid for 200 days. The groundwater is tainted and can't even be used for coffee. I did live in the South for a while. I had a job that sent me out there. There was a point for a couple of years I was repairing copy machines, those big old huge things like you would see where they would run like 1,000 copies per minute. And I was tearing those apart, and I was working in the South. And the humidity, you're right. Oh, yeah, that's something to get used to. Me being from California, I wasn't. But if I get out of California, believe me, I think I could. I think the humidity is definitely worth the price. Chris Longfellow says I'm close to there too. Oh, very cool. Pop up trailer for Pop. That's right. All I do is find a pop up trailer and a place to park it. And Chris says, Admiral, I have a crystal clear well, lovely water. Yeah, Admiral, maybe you're like near a city. Wait, hold on, Admiral. Let me ask you. Are you saying the city water is that bad? Because usually they have certain standards they need to adhere to, right? Hopefully, they usually put like. Well, I know they don't put chlorine in water, but there's a chemical they put in water that's similar to chlorine. I can't remember the name of it now. It's been a long time since I've thought about it. But there is a chemical they put in water it's the reason why this chemical is too potent. And chlorine is too potent and it's poisonous, but it's similar to chlorine. But you think they'd have water facilities? Admiral thinks at least it's a wet heat, said no one ever. Chris says you get used to swamp ass. I guess what I have to do is maybe take a lot of talcum powder, right? Maybe try to move close to a swimming pool. Admiral thinks that Chris in Orlando, my water was like pool water. Ooh, that doesn't sound very good. And Admiral says pool water has leached into a lot of the groundwater in Florida, and it's kind of hard water. So Admiral T, what if you put? Does it work if you put like a filter on it, or does that like? Is there no effect on that? And Admiral T says swamp ass. I didn't. I don't miss that. By the way, you guys, I put it. It reminds me. Like I said, it's probably going to be a short stream tonight, but I did put a poll in the chat if you guys would like to vote. It's based on the vote. The poll is asking about Gerald Fried, the person that I uh, devoted this stream to, who passed away this week, the composer who did Star Trek and many other things. Please vote what you think about the gentleman. You don't have to vote, but if you do, it'd be great, and I'll share the results here. And Chris says, I won't do anything but well water. I don't blame you, Chris. I don't blame you, but make sure you have that tested. I've lived on well water too, and it's fantastic, but you always want to make sure it's tested because iron and other natural elements can always seep in. Admiral Teague's filter made it usable only for pretty bad coffee. It was undrinkable, but that was 100 to 200 a month expense. For the filter? Woo. Well, by the way, I don't drink coffee, so I do drink tea though, however. So I don't know. I would have to have some water. I guess I'd probably stick to bottled water if that's the case. Who knows, right? Maybe they're doing that intentionally to the water to make you buy bottled water. You never know. The way things are manipulated these days, you can't really trust what's happening. Oh, and I also put a poll as a reminder on the community hit tab in my channel. If any of you are interested in my horror streams that we have on Tuesday nights, I put up a new poll for people to choose which movie they would like for us to cover on Tuesday. If you're interested, please vote in the poll. There are four interesting movies, in my opinion. They kind of cover different ranges. I'm trying to make it like give it to people like a variety. You can always suggest movies, by the way, when I have my streams. If there's something you would see that you'd like to cover or you'd like to talk about, you're always welcome to pop it in the chat or come up on the panel and share it with us. Because obviously, everybody together will have a lot more ideas to bring forth than just me by myself. And Admiral Teague says no, 100, 200 for bottled water. Ooh, yeah, that doesn't sound good. Is that like by the gallon? A cup of tea for pop. Well, thank you, Chris. What I do is I make tea and then I mix it with juice. So I'll make like a good green tea, and then I'll buy like cranberry juice or something along that line. I always buy juice that's 100% juice. None of that sugar stuff. None of that stuff that says 15% juice and the rest is sugar. None of that garbage. So I'll buy juice and I'll mix it 50-50 with my tea, pour it on ice, and it's so delicious. Gap After Dark says, I voted. Well, thank you, Gap. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to play a little bit more just for the sake of it because I know some people kind of came in a little late. So here, let me do this. And once again, I'll try to keep this short so we don't get in too much trouble. But hey, you never know. There. I hope you guys could hear that. If you did not hear that, please let me know because I forgot to select the box that says share audio. Chris says that sounds so yummy. Gap says hi. Admiral T says it was 105 degrees. I was guzzling Poland Spring and it couldn't keep up with the dehydration. So I literally pissed my money away. Admiral Teague, I will tell you this. Originally, I was born in the Central Valley of California. And the city I lived in, our regular temperature during the summer was 115 degrees Fahrenheit. But we did not have the humidity. But I do understand and appreciate, well, I don't know if I appreciate it, but I understand being in an area where it's hotter. When I was in the South, I did see temperatures upwards of 100 degrees when it was like 80%, 90% humidity. And it was like, yeah, it was extremely miserable. Where you take a nice cold shower, as soon as you get out, you're sweating as you're trying to dry off at the same time. Definitely no fun. Admiral Tree says, we heard it in all its water. Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah, that's like I said, I mentioned earlier, that's what this stream is dedicated to, the wonderful Fred Freeberger who passed away. I want to show that again. And I want to end on the same note, too, because like I said, I want to give him credit. And there we go. There's the wonderful man there. And like I said, he was 93 and he passed away just this week. And as a reminder, like I said, he worked on Roots, Star Trek, Gilligan's Island, and he worked with Stanley Kubrick. He was on Gunsmoke, The Man from Uncle. He did 5 episodes of Star Trek, Shore Leave, Amok Time, Caspaw, Friday's Child, and The Paradise Syndrome. He worked with the great Quincy Jones on Roots, which was his most prestigious TV credit in 1977, as you can see here. He more or less retired from composing in the late 80s, not long after the death of his 5-year-old son Zachary, who contracted AIDS after receiving a blood transfusion. That is terrible. Free devoted time and effort in later years to raising money for the Pediatric AIDS Foundation. He eventually returned to composing for a brief stint many years later, contributing music including to a Star Trek fan series in the early 2010s. Ooh, I wonder which one, because I'm a big fan of those Star Trek fan series, and I'm guessing it's one of the bigger ones. So I'm going to do a little more research on that and find out because I love that stuff. I'm just trying to remember now the one with Vince Magnolia or whatever. I'm going to find out. If any of you guys know, please let me know because that would be fantastic. And I'm glad he did that. I'm glad he did that. That's excellent. It's too bad for his son. Poor guy, 5 year old, yeah, 5 year old blood transfusion. I remember when that was happening back in the day. Hello, Bill. So good to see you. He don't know me very well, do he? And Chris says everyone here glows from humidity. I'm so used to it. Wow, 98 years old. Bill, hello, says Chris. And Admiral T says that music sold a lot of poorly choreographed fights. Yes, it did. Oh my God. When I used to go to the Star Trek conventions, they'd have a couple volunteers in the audience say, okay, who wants to get up here and act on stage? And it's like, I'm smart. I was in the military. So the first thing I learned is don't volunteer for anything and look like a fool. So in the conventions, they were ran by a company called Creation. And the company itself was terrible. The conventions were fun, but the way they treated the fans and the celebrities was really, really bad. But they one of their some unknown announcer would get up there and say, "I need a couple volunteers. Does anybody want to come up here and act out some Star Trek skits?" And inevitably, you'd have like 10 hands all suddenly raised up, and he'd pick you, and then across the room he'd say you to another person, and get up there, and then he had them mock that fight from a mock time as they played the music, and it was hilarious because obviously the two guys had not practiced. There was no choreography, and things like that. They were so quaint, and you would never see that. I don't know if they still have conventions, but I don't know if you'd ever see it. I don't know. I'll finish my thought. I don't know if you'd ever see it. Something like that again, where fans can get together with a really good show that everyone can agree on. That wasn't divisive. Uh, the good old days, those good old conventions. And Chris Longfellow says 98. God bless him. It's like, yes, I know. I doubt that I'm going to live even close to that age. And God bless our wonderful Captain Kirk William Shatner for still being with us. Funny how Captain Kirk or William Shatner is so much older than Patrick Stewart, but he still sounds like William Shatner. Patrick Stewart sounds like the grandpa from The Simpsons. So who knows, right? Gap After Dark said, "Yeah, creation entertainment sucks big time." Oh, we got another expert there. Yeah, anybody who has encountered creation knows what I'm talking about. I mean, I remember going to conventions where the ticket was upwards of $200, especially the big conventions where it had like Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner both there on the same ticket, and you'd think something for the $200, but nope. You're sitting on the floor, packed around with all these other people. You don't get anything extra, but at least you hope. Oh, and by the way, I remember, and I don't know if it's still this way at conventions. I hope it isn't. But at least when I went to conventions, you could walk right up to them while you're getting something signed and shake their hand. Now they've got plastic dividing and all these other horrible things. But anyway, there was many times where people would bring objects and memorabilia and things for the celebrities to sign, and that would a lot of I know some of the big celebrities, the Jimmy Doohan, George Takei, and then they would sign whatever he had. Like for example, let's say if I have a Scotty doll and I would bring it, Jimmy Doohan would gladly sign it. But if you had like let's say a Kirk doll, Captain Kirk doll, and you brought that, they would say, "Oh no, no, no! You need to buy William Shatner memorabilia here at the convention for us to sign." Oh, and by the way, coincidentally, we have some 9x5 photos over there that you can go ahead and buy one of those over there for $10. Bring it up, and then for $5 or $10 more, you can sign, and so on and so on. I can understand the celebrities, they need the money, and that's the reason why they're there. And when you watch them signing those, I mean, geez, they're signing at least 50 to those a minute. Let me see. Maybe not 50, maybe 10 to 25 a minute, depending on, But back then, you could ask them a question. You could say, hey, I heard PvP the other night, for example, saying that he went to meet Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner, and all he wanted to do was sign his autograph. They pretty much hushed him off the stage. I just, the mic is unplugged. Bear with me for a second here. I hope that sounds better, I guess. Let me fix my mic. All right, you see here. I don't know. Can you guys hear me? Yes, yes, you can. Okay. I apologize for that. Apparently, my dogs get really excited and they like to jump up in my lap. And at some point, they unplugged my really good microphone. And this whole time, I've been talking to you guys on my from the microphone on my laptop. I hope it didn't sound too bad. You're probably getting a lot of echo from the room. But now you can hear me on the official microphone after most of the stream is already over. Of course, that's that's what I get. Admiral T says I saw William Shatner host a viewing of Wrath of Khan and speak for 2.5 hours just last week. Yes, Admiral T, I saw your postings on that, and seriously, isn't he wonderful? The way he still engages the fans. You know, the guy's got money, lots of money. He could be retired over in Florida or wherever he's with one of his mansions and his horses and all that stuff. But nope, he decides he wants to be active. He doesn't want to sit at home. And the fact that he's still engaged with the fans and he's willing to talk about Wrath of Khan, he could easily say, "I'm not going to talk about that movie. You know, I've talked about it 100 times. There's nothing new." I watched the clips that the different fans post of the way he interacts and the things that he says. And you know, and I've said it before when I went to the conventions. When I went to the conventions, by the way, it was the era of Star Trek 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they were just working on 6. So during that interim, I was in the Air Force, and I was pretty much going to almost every convention up in the Bay Area. So I met all of the original series cast, some of them more than once, and then I met some of the TNG cast as they were brought on. But I never saw. Now it may have changed after I stopped going to the conventions, but the conventions that I went to, that the TNG cast were there, I met. Let's see. Now, forgive me now for the names because I don't necessarily remember all their real names, but there was Riker was there, Troy was there, and thank goodness Whoopi Goldberg was not. But I think it was, and I think LaForge. I think those are the three that I met from TNG, and they just didn't seem to engage the audience as well. But to give them credit, at the time they were very new. They probably didn't have a lot of stories just to share and to tell. So if either any of you guys out there listening, if you saw later conventions with them, I'm sure they were probably much better. It's just that I'm fond of the TOS cast. Gap After Dark says I learned about creation entertainment when I went to a Stargate convention in Chicago. After that, I said never again. You know, I said never again, then I went again, and I said never again, I went again. Unfortunately, because they were the only ones that had the license to have all the best talent. Admiral Teague says he's wonderful. There's a script. He is full of happiness and loves the fans. He was asked the question I submitted. Um, Admiral Teague, I'm not sure if you'd like to share that with us. I would like to hear that, the question you submitted. That's fantastic. And you know what? And another celebrity who is excellent, absolutely fantastic with audience is Bruce Campbell. If any of you ever get the chance to catch that person live in an audience, oh my God, he's funny. He's very smart. He loves the fans. He respects the fans, and he's highly underrated. He deserves a lot more. And by the way, excuse me, I was reading an article just earlier today. It was posted on Twitter by Don Coscarelli, the director of Bubba Hotep. I should have found the article and had it ready to show you guys tonight. But Don Coscarelli, he's the director of Bubba Hotep with Bruce Campbell, and he's also known for the Phantasm movies. So in the post that he put today, he said it was funny how he took Bubba Hotep around to all the studios, and they all turned it down, of course, like idiots, typical. But Shout Factory was the only one that picked it up, which explains, by the way, the reason why when it did come out, it wasn't at any of the major theater chains. It did not have a major release like all the other movies. I had to go drive down to L.A. 5.5 hour drive to go see it at the New Art Theater, this little independent mom and pop theater. And it was the same with everybody around the country. The only way to see that movie was you had to go somewhere far to a little small independent theater in order to see it. So anyway, Shout Factory, they promoted at those theaters. And when I went to the one in LA, Bruce Campbell was there. He, similar like Admiral Teague says with William Shatner, we watched the movie and then Bruce Campbell came on. See, he came on before and then after. That's right. He actually sat in the audience with us when we watched the movie, which was great. Um, but it was great. And then the article that Don Coscarelli was talking about how he shopped it around, and like I said, the studios rejected it, but then Shout Factory released it, And he, in the article, I'm sure if you guys look it up, Don Coscarelli and Bubba Hotep, the article just came out today. It was on Twitter. He said that he showed a list of the top selling movies, like on DVD and Blu-ray and stuff like that. And Bubba Hotep is on that list of like within the top 20, 25, something like that, which is incredible. If you look at the list, and all the other ones are like big ones like Titanic and Spider-Man, and all that good stuff. And there it is. Bubba Hotep is on that list, fairly close to the top. And that's what he says. Out of all the movies, he says Bubba Hotep is still making good money, even though it was turned down by all the other studios. And it's like, poor Bruce Campbell, so many times the man just didn't get the, I don't know. It's just got the short end of the stick so many times. Admiral Teague, I asked who was your favorite female co-star, and he never actually answered. He took a lot of the questions, 10 or more. He probably doesn't want to offend anybody. Favorite female co-star. I would think he should. It's too bad he should have shouted out Nichelle Nichols at that point, because obviously she's the one he worked with the most on Star Trek, and she just passed away recently. It would have been nice, but I can't tell him what to say or what his heart feels. Chris says Shatner is an absolute joy, a real star. Yes, and his mind is 100% there. He's got a great voice. His voice is still loud and booming, and it's not old and weak and frail like somebody else we know of. I could still picture. I don't know, and it's too bad because we can't go back in time, but it would have been nice if William Shatner could have done one last time playing Captain Kirk, even if it was a voiceover somehow. Obviously he's too old now to physically play Captain Kirk, but it's a shame that we'll never see him do it again. It's not. Even if it's a voiceover, being considering who owns Star Trek, who is in control of Star Trek. I know we don't want to see him anywhere near it right now. We don't want them to do to him what they did with the rest of the people, and we can all sigh relief that we know that William Shatner is smarter than the rest of those people, and that's why he has not been on there and will not be on there. William Shatner, as we all know, he's not desperate, and he's also willing to tell you that. He'll tell you he's not desperate, and he's not going to sign up for any strip for any truck of cash. He's got all the money he needs. He's a happy man. And as we all know, he respects the character of Captain Kirk. And I don't think he wants to let anybody defile it too badly. I think, honestly, in my opinion, it's kind of morbid to say, but I think that Secret Hideout and Kurtzman and all them, I think they're waiting for him to pass away. And then when he does, we're going to get full on Captain Kirk in the new Trek, and it's going to be really, really bad. I think the only reason they're not doing it now is because they know people are going to compare. And anybody they try to put up there is not going to be able to compare against William Shatner, and they know that it'll be a failure. Admiral Teague says Shatner complimented all as many women as he could remember. It was the crowd reaction to her on screen. It was Nichelle's moment. Sustained applause. I'm so glad to hear that, and she deserved it. I met her twice. Very, very friendly. Very, very nice. I shook her hands. She looked right in my eyes. I was able to answer. I remember her. I asked first. I complimented her because I had purchased her little 45 record of Beyond Antares, and I told her how I had loved it, and I had her sign the sleeve to it. And I told her, it's really difficult when you meet big celebrities because you don't want to sound like, there's like 100,000 people in line with you, and they're all going to say the same thing when they get up there, and you don't want to sound like the old term, the broken record, or repetitive, what everybody else says. You're always trying to think of something unique, so that you're thinking, I know it's a little fantastic, but you're thinking, maybe I could say something unique where they'll actually remember me instead of just saying, "Oh, I love your work," blah blah blah, and just glossing over everything. So, yeah, I complimented on her music, on the her voice, and then I loved her little 45. I shook her hand. I took a picture with her. I posed with her. She put her arm around me, and that was around the time they were filming. The last time I met her was around the time the Star Trek between 3 and 4. Between 3 and 4 was when I met her the last time. And like I said, all of them were approachable back then. It was a long line up to the table where they were signing autographs, but you could walk right up to the table and shake their hand and actually talk to them and look them in the eye. And from what I'm hearing now, it's not even like that anymore. They just want people to move, treat you like cattle and just say next, 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 ka-ching, 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 like a cash register, which is really sad and disrespectful, by the way, to the fans. because, like I say to the chat, and what they should say to the fans, without you, we wouldn't be here, and they need to remember that for change. Admiral Teague says Nichelle was host of all the NASA science specials we saw in grammar school. It was great. I'm so glad she worked with NASA. She was a big influence, and I believe she worked with some of the first female astronauts too. And it was great because, I mean, talk about a legend, that woman. What a legend. And I don't know what Star Trek, TOS, or the movies would have been with. I don't know what they would have been like without her voice. And I think of Wrath of Khan comes to mind. The scene where they're walking around on the space station, and you can hear her voice on the monitors throughout the space station. Space, what is the space station? I'm sure you guys remember in the chat, but I remember when you hear her saying, "This is the Enterprise." Space Station Regular One, that's it. Space Station Regular One, this is the Enterprise. Space Station, and I'm thinking, if I ever had a ship in space, I want to hear his voice too. I loved it. I'm not happy with the way they do her character. I'm using quotes, air quotes. Her character in the new Trek. I'm not happy with that at all. Or with the new, especially the new movies with her, the relationship between her and Spock, I think is one of the most despicable things I've ever seen. And Admiral T says regular one. Yes, space station regular one. Which, as we all know, they've used that space station many, many times. They just turned it upside down. But hey, they're being very creative. And I understand they did have to cut corners. So I'm not going to complain. I still love Trek. Just like Gilligan's Island and just like a lot of other classic things. Warts and all, I don't care. That, in fact, a lot of times when there's imperfections, I usually like it even more. Everything's now, it seems like it's all CGI and glossed over and just, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I just, I prefer classics. I like watching film. I like to see specks on film. I like to see scratches on film, little hairs. I don't like to see everything looking absolutely perfect, like a product. It just reminds me of like mac and cheese. I'd rather have homemade rather than something that comes out of a box that's been processed 1,000 times. Admiral teaches Pop, whose child were they supposed to have found? Khan's or a random child? It was supposed to be Khan's son. Yeah, it's supposed to be a baby boy. Admiral Teague is referring to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, the scene where Chekhov and Captain Terrell land on Ceti 5, and they go inside the cargo bays, and when they're looking around, and when they do find a child, a boy, and they're looking at the child, and they are trying to figure out who the child belongs to. Now, what I'm mentioning right now, what I'm saying right now, is in clips that were cut out for the release. But the two found a child, and they were trying to debate, what the child was, whose the child was, and all this stuff. And then that's when we get the scene that we've all seen where Chekhov grabs the seatbelt and he sees the buckle that says SS Botany Bay. And that's when Chekhov says, Botany Bay. Oh, this is a quote. Now, I haven't seen the movie in a while, but I'll try to the best I can paraphrase. Chekhov sees the belt buckle and says, Botany Bay. Botany Bay. Oh, no, we've got to get out of here. And then immediately cuts to Terrell. And really quickly, Terrell says, what about the child? And Chekhov says, never mind about that. We've got to get out of here. Hurry, hurry. And then that's when they run out, and then they're confronted with Khan. And then apparently the child was supposed to be on the ship with Khan. And at the end, when the Genesis device went off, the child was supposed to be there in the same room with the Genesis device. And that probably seemed a little dark for the people that were, for Paramount, probably thinking, for the audience. And I guess I have to agree that probably wouldn't have mixed well. So maybe it's a good thing they perhaps. See, one of the things when Khan was upset and he tells Terrell and Chekhov, and he says, they killed my people, everybody, including my beloved wife. The fact that I think that they were going to establish that what was also driving his anger was the fact that his wife was a mother to his child, and her dying is also one of the reasons for revenge. So I think it was supposed to be even more deeper to make even more of an impact on Khan. But I think they may have thought that was too dark. So they cut out any references to the son in the final edits. PvP, welcome. Gerald Freed died today at 95. A sad day. Yes, PvP, it is. I was reading a little bit about him. I played a little bit of samples from his wonderful music. And I mean, without enough time, what would he have as? By the way, when I was a kid, we would play that thing as we played in the outside in the yard. You know, we had our sticks and things like that, and many times we'd be playing that music over and over in our heads or out loud. And there were some points too where I was lucky enough to have an actual cassette recorder and actually recorded off the television. I would hold the mic next to the speaker when they were showing Star Trek, and then when we went outside and played, I'd be playing that music back. But I shouldn't have said that, right? Admiral Teague says Chagat means Khan had lost his wife very. Oh, that means Khan had lost his wife very recently. Exactly, Admiral. Gap After Dark says, "Hey, Pleasant Valley." And by the way, they didn't say how old the child was, but I'm guessing the fact the way they were looking at it and they were observing it, that it was probably like an infant, very small. You know, like maybe I don't know, maybe less than a year. Admiral T says you can still hear Tyrell say the line as Chekhov shouts. Yes, you can. It's like Chekhov shouts over him, right? You have to listen for it. You can even play it back if you want. I think if you play the movie with subtitles, though, it won't have it. I think with the subtitles, it only has Chekhov's line. So you have to listen to it and pay attention. Admiral T says, do you think it was a good decision to cut the child? I'm thinking yes. Yes, I think it probably was. Of course, we will never know. But I think it was. It might have been a little too cruel. Um, PvP says at Admiral Teague, incorrect. He died yesterday. Well, the article says this week. So I wasn't sure exactly which day because it did say this week. I was going to look up the actual day that he passed away, but that was just before I was getting the stream ready and I didn't want to be too late for you guys. And Admiral Teague says Pleasant Valley Picker CA. Alexa says 2006. Well, send Alexa outside. She needs to be hit with a stick. PvP says February 17th, 2023, age 95. Thank you, PvP. Alexa is wrong. Yes, she is. I'm sure you guys heard about this big old shenanigans going on with Microsoft's chatbot, the AI that's really screwing people over and it's insulting them and gaslighting and please, this AI is going to be terrible, but that's the future. Admiral T says it seemed like Tyrell was looking into a cradle. That's what I thought too. Cradle or like a bassinet. PvP says Free died of pneumonia in Bridgeport, Connecticut on February 17, 2023, 4 days after his 95th birthday. Thank you, PvP. I had pneumonia once. In fact, I had it and then I had double pneumonia. And I can tell you that it's really bad. I'm sure you've all heard that it's bad, but it's worse than that. If you're actually going through it, it is horrible. In fact, I came very close to not being here a few times. I'll put it that way. Admiral Teague says I was talking about Gerald Ford, who was mentioned. Oh, Gerald Ford. That's the date on Wikipedia, says PvP. PvP says Freed and Ford different folks. Yes, I sure hope so. Gerald Ford was the president that couldn't walk or stumbled down things. Sound familiar, doesn't it? Admiral Teague says I can pay to have my Alexa speak like Samuel L. Jackson. If I could have my Alexa speak like anybody I wanted to, it would probably be Scotty. It'd probably be the Jimmy Doohan voice of Scotty because I seem to like that so much. PvP says, glad I don't have Alexa. Yeah, I don't want something that's constantly listening to me and monitoring what I do. And I've heard that a lot of those even have cameras. And it's like, no, I know the younger generations, they love that and they get excited when they hear about technology and robots and self-driving cars. And no, I want to drive my own car. I don't want anybody monitoring me, what I do or what I say. If I want to look something up, I'll look something up. If I want to shout out to somebody and say, hey, what is this? What is that? Oh, what time is it? What temperature is it? Where am I? I'll ask you guys when I come on the chat. I really talk to a live person anyway. Gap After Dark says, have a good pops. Gotta eat. Oh, and by the way, Gaps, me too. For me, it's 7:35 p.m. and I've worked all day. I want to make sure my internet doesn't go out there. I worked all day and I got home just in time to do this stream. I was hoping to start it earlier because I know for a lot of you guys it's even later. But I fed my dogs, got that out of the way. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to let them out and go potty, maybe fix me some dinner. But like I said, I wanted to hold this little stream here. I'm going to pay homage and respect to Gerald Freed and the wonderful work that he's left us, all of us fans. Tonight, I want you to hum that theme as you're going to bed. Maybe you'll have a wonderful dreams, right? Admiral Teague says, I'd like it if Alexa spoke like Major Barrett. You turn off the camera by sliding a piece of plastic in most assistants. They know we don't trust them. Well, the question is, do you trust that closing that plastic really turns off the microphone? I wouldn't. If there was some way of taking that and put it in a soundproof device, box, sound, something, I would do that. But then what's the point of having something that's supposed to listen? But it's the same with like my laptop. It's got a built-in camera. And whenever I'm on StreamYard, like right now, I turn off my camera because you guys see my avatar. But I have a piece of paper covering the actual camera itself the whole time. I put tape over it or a piece of paper because I don't want to sound too paranoid. I know there are a lot of paranoid people out there, but I do have enough understanding of technology and the way these corporations work and their greed and the way, unfortunately, our government works that I don't want to trust them too much. I still respect and I want my privacy. Admiral T says, no, it just blocks the camera lens. It's a great bedside TV. Alexa's a bedside TV? Interesting. Since so we're going on, an entire hour. Wow, okay. But usually I don't have enough to talk about to keep me going this long, but thank goodness all of you came here, which helped a lot. And I really appreciate it, but I'm probably going to be cutting it short because I don't seem to have anybody on the panel besides myself. And you don't want to hear some old fool just babbling on. Um, I'm hoping to have my next Star Trek stream on Monday if you can join me for the animated series. It'll be the episode of Albatross. And then Tuesday evening, we'll be doing our horror stream again. We'll be showing another horror movie. I put the poll, like I said, in my community tab on my channel if you'd like to vote for which horror movie we cover next. And then I'll choose one of those and I will post that. I only put the post up this morning. That's why I don't want to tell you yet what we're going to be covering because I want to give people a couple days to vote. But I will be posting probably on Monday which movie. No, maybe tomorrow. I want to give people a couple days to watch whatever movie we vote on. I think right now as it stands, it seems to be the most popular one at this time. Seems to be the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And if that is the one that we decide on ultimately, I want to make sure that I give people plenty of time to watch it and get caught up on it before the stream. Oops. I want to cover my poll here and show you guys the poll. Thank you for anybody who voted. Looks like we did get some votes. So I'm going to end the poll and then I'm going to show it up down here so we can all view it. There we go. And share my screen. All right. So here's the results of our poll. Did you enjoy Gerald Fried's music? Who's Gerald Fried? 58%. Yes, 41%. And no, 0%. At least we didn't get any no's. So, but I always give everybody the option. You guys have the right to whatever you want. And it's funny because I had a feeling that most people probably didn't recognize the name. And like I said at the beginning of the stream, you're probably not going to recognize the name, but I'm sure you're definitely going to recognize that music. Admiral says, I watch YouTube on it all the time and Sling. I almost bought one of those Sling boxes, Admiral, but I think I heard did they discontinue and start making them? PvP says I'll probably pop on Monday for animated series. That'd be great, PvP. You would definitely be welcome. And PvP says, as it's a holiday here. Oh, that's right. It's also, I believe, a holiday here in the U.S., but for me, I'm going to work because if it's a holiday, that means I might be busy. And PvP says, I'm on Saturday Night Trek tonight, going to write reviews there. Oh, Saturday Night Trek. Is that a stream on your channel, PvP? Or if not, you can go ahead and feel free to let me know here. If I'm going to be ending this stream here, maybe people can go over and visit you and join you on that stream. So any of you guys, if you're listening within listening reach, feel free to plug your channels in the chat or list what you're going to be doing tonight. Maybe give some people some ideas. It's all up to you guys. I don't care what you guys go and listen to or watch. Thanks for the great stream, Pop. Well, Admiral, it's my pleasure. Like I said, it was so good to have you here. And like I said earlier, somebody needs to do a shout out for Gerald Freed. I mean, the man lived a long life and many, many, many hours of enjoyment of music for all of us for our different shows that we grew up with as kids. And oh, there it is. PvP says clobbering times live every Saturday. All right, everybody. There you go. So if you can make it, like I said, Monday for the animated, I'm still hoping right now that I'm going to have the stream. I hope. If for some reason I'm not able to, I will let you know. But either way, we're definitely doing our horse stream on Tuesday, so we're definitely going to cover that one. And like I said, tomorrow I'll be closing the poll on our horror stream and then posting the results tomorrow as well, so that everyone has a couple days to try to watch whatever movie we're going to review. It looks like at this point, like I said, it might be Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but I'll leave it up one more day, so in case a lot of people may have been busy and not had a chance to vote yet. So with that, I wanted to thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Without you in the chat, I wouldn't be here, obviously. And you guys make it so fun, and you make this whole thing, you make it worth it. And I know it's cold where a lot of you are, and we're all going through some crazy winters. So if it's snow, icy, or anything like that, please try to stay safe, drive safe, and peace.